All right, everyone. Welcome to a special 3-hour edition of the Branded MMA Show. So Mac cannot watch the Bruins tonight.
Oh, we're watching the Bruins tonight.
I'm just kidding, folks. Welcome to the Branded MMA Show, brought to you by GiftJiff. Today is June 3rd, 2021. I am your host, Shavi, joined as always by the man behind the hit MMA movie, Here Comes the Boom, Ryan McCarthy. And we'll be joined a little later. We have Keith Walsh, the #1 ginger covering MMA, making his way from preparing for an out-of-state wedding trip, and he's going to record with us here in a few minutes. But Mac, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. It's been I feel like it's been weeks since we've been doing this. I mean, since we've actually did one, but no, been probably like a week and a half, maybe almost 2 weeks, maybe. I guess we did have last weekend off of fights, so.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people had. I think a lot of MMA in that world was off of last week. Understandably, it's very. I mean, there's fights pretty much every weekend, so it's nice to have a weekend off. Honestly.
Well, and the more I try to put together stuff for the show, I was like, there's not really a lot we can talk about. I mean, we could like reminisce, but it's like nothing current.
Yeah,
it's like pressing
little news, but nothing too much. Especially, it's crazy too. Like they used to be a big Memorial Day weekend company. The UFC used to have big pay-per-views on this weekend or this past weekend. And I think it's probably smart not to do that. I think, I mean, it's a big weekend where people go their lake house, they go wherever, family weddings, it's probably best not to have pay-per-views on that weekend. Let people get away.
Yeah. I know we're both big wrestling fans. I know Walsh is too. I did watch AEW Double or Nothing on Sunday. That kind of works. It's like they have that one day. So it's like if you put a $70 UFC pay-per-view and a $50 wrestling card in the middle for me of like a Memorial Day weekend, I'm gonna have to pick one or the other, and it's probably gonna be wrestling. I hate to say it, but I mean that card delivered. It was kick ass. That's where I would have been.
Yeah, it was a good card. Didn't see it, but I did read about it.
It was good. 60-year-old Sting hitting flip power bombs. 64 or something. He's old, and he's doing
what a weird world.
You couldn't do that in MMA. I would have liked to see Randy Couture do like a spinning wheel kick at some point, though. Like maybe against Machida or Brandon Vera. That would have been cool.
That would be insane. It's the sport has evolved so much since then, since Randy was in there.
I want to get your take on this. I was actually reading, I forget where, but people are saying that you don't hit your peak in MMA until like your mid to late 30s now. It's crazy. Like it's.
I think it probably depends on the weight class. I think that's probably accurate. That's probably accurate for a heavyweight. They can last a little longer, but for like a lightweight like a Conor McGregor, I think his peak was probably those late 20s, early 30s, which makes sense. Body wise, you're cutting that weight and shit. So, I'd say probably late 20s to let's say like 33 probably for the typical fighter, and heavyweights definitely heavyweights it's probably 34 to 39. I mean, you look at Jan Blachowicz, even the light heavyweight champion. He's I think 38, 39, and he's obviously just hitting his peak now, which is crazy. It's a weird sport, man. Weird sport.
And I don't know how long Walsh has been sitting there. He's been sitting there patiently.
Like a minute.
Don't worry, boys. I made it.
Okay, so note for next time. This new layout's not going to work because I can't see like the whole. This is going to look shitty on YouTube, but that's okay. We're learning as we go. But we got Walsh here, the #1 ginger covering MMA. He's here after preparing for an out-of-state wedding trip. Walsh, you actually were going to start this broadcast in the car, but we had a bit of an echo problem.
Yeah, I couldn't hear you at all, and I was driving in a complete downpour. I mean, it was a monsoon outside as I'm driving in the car, trying to put in the work. I wanted to do this for you guys. Mac was very adamant about starting at 6:45, so I had to make sure I was at least put in the effort. He can't miss his Bruins game tonight, even though they're going to lose, but it's all right. He can't miss that. So we had to get here at 6:45. I was ready to go. Unfortunately, some technical difficulties. It doesn't matter because we're here now and we're talking UFC. So back to what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, we're talking UFC, but it's also funny. They say bad things happen in twos. You lost Danny Ainge, the the Celtics were knocked out of the playoffs. I mean, the Bruins. Bad things happen in 3. Sorry, so the Bruins have to lose tonight.
Yeah, it only makes sense.
Or we could do. I mean, the Bruins lost in a brutal overtime fashion the other night, so maybe that was before, and then the Celtics.
Oh,
and
that's
now
okay.
now we're on the
Gotcha.
come up tonight. We take over Long Island.
I don't know if I want to. I don't know if I want to claim to Long Island. Honestly,
oh, I do. We're taking over Long Island.
They're taking over one city at a time, DJ Khaled style, folks. You heard it there first. Let's get into this card. We got UFC Vegas 28 this weekend. In the main event, we have Jairzinho Rozenstruik, the -130 favorite over former Dana White Contender Series alumni Augusto Sakai at +110. Sakai, of course, coming off the loss to Alistair Overeem back at Fight Night in, I believe, September 2020, if I'm not mistaken. And Rozenstruik is coming off a trip in the octagon. I don't know if much fighting was going on against
Cyril Gane.
Cyril Gane.
Cyril Gane.
It's gone. Mac, let's start with you. What are your thoughts on this main event?
Yeah, it's a good matchup. I mean, it's very difficult to sorry, what are the odds again? I actually don't have that up here.
So we got Rozenstruik at the -130 favorite and Augusto Sakai is +110. So pretty close odds.
Close odds. I think it's I mean, Sakai is he's a good wrestler. He's very good, and I think Cyril Gane really exposed Rozenstruik in that last fight. He really kind of just held him down, and as we all know, that was a pretty disappointing fight, to be honest. So I actually kind of expect. I was very disappointed to see that from Rozenstruik. I think he was. I want to say I had him over Gane in that one. I don't remember though. That seems like fucking forever ago, man.
February, I believe. I want to say you did have Rozenstruik.
Yeah,
I don't know if we're doing the pickoff yet. I think we were, but I think you did.
Yeah, I think we were. I think we started the new year. But man, it was hard to see that, and I think he obviously exposed a hole in his game. So Sakai is an even better wrestler than Cyril Gane, at least from what I've read. And man, I'm very certain that Sakai can get this one done. He lost his last fight to Overeem in September, so that's not an easy walk in the park. And so, I mean, he's beaten some notable guys. I mean, Tarbura, Orlovsky, Ivanov, no jokes, man. And he's TKO'd most of those guys. So it's a tough one to call, as the odds say. But I do believe Sakai gets this done, and I think he's a great underdog to make some money on. I really do. I think he holds down Rozenstruik much like Gane did, and he might get the finish on the ground, or not on the ground, but maybe TKOs while he's holding them down, maybe some elbows or something to cut him up. But I do expect Sakai to get that dub in there. Very disappointed in Rozenstruik in that last one, to be honest. So, but maybe Rozenstruik has a renaissance here. But man, I'm going Sakai by unanimous decision.
We got the fight going the distance for Mac. Walsh, this is we'll get into your parlay later, but with the +110, that seems perfect play for a parlay if you do think Sakai will win. It's not as much just a straight up money line bet because there's not much money to be made on a +110 line. But now let's get your thoughts on the fight. How do you see this playing out?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the opportunity to make some money there. Listen, this is a heavyweight fight though, so these honestly, every heavyweight fight, in my opinion, unless it's completely one-sided, they could all be pick'ems. It's one punch and someone's going to sleep. I mean, I guess that's every fight, but especially with the heavyweights, more so than other divisions. I think Rozenstruik. I don't know. I don't want to say I'm confident in him because I'm not. But I don't know. I have a feeling. It's usually every time I do that, it never actually works in my favor when I say I have a feeling. So take what you want with that. But no, I just feel like he's going to have a nice bounce back fight here, and I think he's going to get the job done and, move up a little bit in the rankings. I'm going to go second round knockout.
All right. I like it. We're switching things up here. I I don't know. I mean, my first introduction to Rosenstruck was at the beginning of COVID, the first card. I believe it was the first card, right, into COVID, where he got sterilized by Francis Ngannou. So I didn't know much about him up until that point. Having watched him now, he has not done a lot in the cage to really impress me. I did go back and watch the Overeem fight, which is a fight he would have arguably lost a decision to had the ref not stopped the fight with so little time on the clock, and some will say it's a questionable stoppage. And like you said, he really didn't have an answer for the wrestling against Cyril Gane. And his last couple wins here, like I said, the Overeem win, which arguably is a fight, he was 4 seconds away from losing a decision. And Junior Dos Santos, who is like, it's tough to gauge how good a Junior Dos Santos victory is now that we've seen him on the skid and out of the UFC. But at the same time, Augusto Sakai doesn't really have a marquee win, in my opinion, either. So I'm with Walsh. It is kind of a toss-up fight, but I'm going to have to go with Mac here. I think Sakai gets it done. I think the wrestling, I just don't see someone making a drastic improvement in their wrestling in so little time.
Yeah.
So I have to go Sakai by decision.
Yeah, has it been too long? I mean, 4 months is a long time, but wrestling is tough, man. I mean, especially when you're that big, it's not easy. And I agree. I think Sakai can get that done. But like you said, Walsh, heavyweights are as big a crapshoot as you're going to get in the sport, or any sport. I mean, anyone can win at any time, unless you're fighting Francis Ngannou.
Yeah, well, and it goes back to either or will be a tough fight. It's not a guaranteed a flip of the coin. But I think the perfect example of what you're saying would have to be Derek Lewis versus Curtis Blades, in a fight where Curtis Blades is the better all-around fighter, was showing that in the first round, and then made a sloppy attempt at a takedown, and Derek Lewis capitalized. One punch changed the whole fight. That's the heavyweight division in a nutshell. Any punch, like you said, that will land is going to change the fight, if not end the fight. So we'll go ahead and stick in the heavyweight division here in the co-main event. We have Walt Harris, the plus 140 underdog, against Marcin Tybura. I hope I said that right. But Walsh, we'll start with you this time. What are your thoughts on the co-main?
I really like Walt Harris, and I think a lot of it does have to do with the story with it's his daughter, right? That was
stepdaughter.
Stepdaughter, yeah.
Yeah. So it's tough not to root for the guy. So I will be rooting for him. I don't know if he gets done this week. I don't know too much about his opponent, to be honest. Haven't really seen much of Marcin. I'm just going to call him that because I'm going to Tybura. We'll say Tybura. That works. Haven't really seen much of him, so I'm not too sure. But again, this is another one. The odds are plus 140 for Walt Harris, minus 170 for Tybura. I think it's a pick 'em again, really. I mean, Walt Harris, we've seen what he can do. He's got the motivation, he's got the power. He's a decent fighter. I'm not going to sit here and say he's, a great one, but I think he could get it done. I'm just not fully confident, so that's why I'm going to go with Tybura here.
All right, there we go. We got Tybura for Walsh here. Mac, are you in the same boat?
This is a tough one to call. You say is Walt the underdog plus 140? You said.
Yep, slight underdog at plus 140.
You know what? I was actually leaning towards Tybura, but I'm going with the dogs in the main and co-main. You might as well. I'll take Walt. I've taken Walt both times in his last two fights since his tragic passing of his stepdaughter. Unfortunately, obviously that was very tough, man, to see and hear about. So and he's very good. He's very good. Yeah. I think that those Overeem and Volkov fights were really tough matchups for him. I mean, those are two legends of the game. Tybura's been around for a minute too. Didn't really realize Tybura's been on a 4-fight win streak, to be honest, until I just saw that. So, he did knock out Greg Hardy. I completely forgot about that, to be honest. I'll take Walt Harris in this one. I think he can get the finish. Would be awesome to see that first win since his passing. Like you said, Walsh, hard not to root for the guy. Just in a really hard, pulls on your heart, that story a lot. So really, really cool to see. Would be really cool to see him get a dub and get on that one fight win streak and maybe string along a couple wins. That heavyweight division, if you can get a few wins in a row, man, you can really get yourself a title shot. I mean, he's 8th in the heavyweight rankings, so you rattle off 3-4 in a row, especially from that 8th spot, you're getting a title shot for sure. So let's see.
Yeah, and I think Rosenstruck is the definition of what you just said, Mac. He is someone that
exactly
has a big hole in his wrestling game that was exposed by Cyril Gahn, and he is still 6th in the division. So it's like, if Walt Harris can rattle off a few wins, he can make a name for himself and put himself in contention for a title eliminator. It's going to be 30-27 across the board here for Walt Harris. Like you said, it's hard not to root for him. I'd just be echoing what you guys are saying. It's a feel-good moment that I think we need at the tail end of COVID. And I think just for him I don't think we can sit here and say that tragic passing of his stepdaughter doesn't play a part in how he fights in the octagon. How much, we don't know, but it would just be nice to see him get that win post the tragic passing, just so he can kind of like overcome the obstacle. And where it's like that's where people are like, that's not playing a part in his fight anymore, where it's like he's going out there and we're seeing Walt Harris evolutionize. That's not even a word, but evolve. We're seeing him evolve as a fighter, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So 30-27 across the board. Let's hope that happens. I know there is one other fight here I do want to talk about from the main card. And if you guys want to talk about one, feel free to stop me. We do have the welterweight fight with Santiago Ponzinibbio. I probably fucked that up.
Santiago. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Just say Santiago.
Santiago is even against Miguel Beza, who is -120. And I will not lie, after doing a little bit of research on the card, I was surprised to see that at first. I know Santiago was someone that was hyped up as a prospect at one point. He unfortunately got knocked out on the UFC on ABC 1 card, and now he's an underdog against Miguel Beza. That's just the way the sport goes.
It really is. Yeah. And Beza's 10-0, 28 years old.
Three-fight win streak too.
Yeah, so now Santiago's the one being chased, and I remember being very high on Santiago. He was he was on a 7-fight winning streak before that fight against Li Jiliang. And man, he beat Neil Magny, Mike Perry, Gunnar Nelson. I mean, he was really on the come up. Is he ranked?
Yeah.
No, he's not ranked. He was ranked, I think, before that fight.
He was. Yeah, he was ranked.
Man, it's tough. I actually am gonna go with the kid from Florida. I think he can get this done. Miguel Beza, 10-0, man. He beat Matt Brown, Takashi Sato, so no joke. Back-to-back performance of the night. So it could be fireworks in this one. I think this is a potential fight of the night one, honestly.
Yeah, and that's why I did want to talk about it.
Ooh.
Yeah, and that's what I did want to talk about. I feel like that's a fight that stands out to me. Is these guys are just going to bring it, whether it goes 15 or we see it finish early. I could just see this being fight of the night right along with you, Mac. I'm with you. I took a pill and a Beza, and that made me want to pick Miguel Beza. I'm going to go Miguel Beza as well. I guess, Walsh, we're going to make this another 30-27, or are we going to see a 10-8 round decision from you out of nowhere and just go complete 180?
No. We're gonna go Beza here. I think he seems like he's an up and coming star. This is probably his biggest test to this point, and let's see what the kid's got. So I'll be rooting for him.
Yeah, and that's probably the 3 big fights that stick out to me on the card. I think we're all kind of in agreement. It's not a stacked fight night, but like we said with the Font and Garbrandt card, you are gonna see some memorable moments. It may not be an exciting fight, but you will across the board. But you'll see some memorable moments. I think we really didn't get together to talk about the Font and Garbrandt card in detail, but you got to see a cool main event where Rob Font utilized a jab against Cody Garbrandt, and you got to see a bloody fight. I think anytime you see blood in the octagon, it's always memorable. So, I mean, you get your money's worth if you sit down for 2 hours and watch that card. I think you're in the same boat here. You will get your money's worth, but I know it's not strong on paper.
But plus, you got to look at these cards. The way I've started to look at them more is it's a good opportunity to get to know some of the guys that are coming up. That way, you can hop on the bandwagon before they're take off.
Yeah,
and you like, and then there you go.
Yeah, And you can hop on the bandwagon and I mean, listen to what the commentators are saying. These guys know what they're talking about. I mean, they train with a lot of these guys. They
Well,
obviously
Mac,
are
I got to stop you there, Mac. That depends on who you ask. If you ask the king of self-awareness, Joshua Fabia, they do not know what they're talking about.
yes, Joshua Fabia. We should listen to everything he says. All hail Josh. But no, I mean, listen to what the comments are saying. I mean, if they're and it can give you it can give you an advantage in terms of betting as well. If you really keen in on what they're saying about some up and comers and for future fights as well. Like you said, Walsh, if you hop on that bandwagon early, you can really do some damage, making some money as well.
Yeah, it's always good to toss that. Oh yeah, well, you know him now that he's the champion. Well, what about his fight night back in June of 2021 when he knocked out such and such? I was there.
Right, we were there for that. And I guess getting to that, we'll break down the rest of the fight odds for the card. So we have a middleweight fight in the main card: Roman Dolidze minus 150 against Laureano Starpoli, who's a plus 125. And then we have another middleweight tilt between Dusko Todorovic, minus 150, against Gregory Rodriguez, who's the plus 125 underdog. And then opening the main card, we got Englishman Tom Breese, minus 250 favorite over Antonio Arroyo, and plus 200 in a middleweight matchup. And then the prelims, you have some names on here. Main event of the prelims, we're going to have a featherweight fight between Makwan Amirkhani, who is a plus 210 underdog to Camelia Kirk. And then we have women's flyweight. We have Montana De La Rosa, minus 275 favorite against Ariana Lipsky, who is plus 220. And a heavyweight fight, which this is one, I will say, I don't usually like to point out fight night prelim cards to like tune into this fight in particular. This one, you're going to want to tune into, but not because of how the fight will go. It's just seeing Ilir Latifi at heavyweight is like watching a tree stump in the octagon. The guy is unreal in his size.
Yeah, absolutely.
Big fella.
He's a big, and he's only like 5'10", and so let's just put that in perspective. Just this guy's built like a brick shit house, and you're gonna want to see at least that part of the early prelims. But he is the plus 160 underdog against Tanner Bosser in a heavyweight matchup, and then we got a welterweight tilt. Muslim Salikov is a minus 250 favorite against former Tough Brazil contestant Francisco Trinaldo, who is at plus 200. Lightweight, we got Alan Patrick, plus 235, underdog against Mason Jones, who is minus 300, and what I believe is the heaviest line on the card. Then we have women's flyweight, Manon Fiorot, minus 170 favorite against Mariana Moros, who is plus 140. And then Sean Woodson in a featherweight tilt is a minus 190 favorite against Youssef Zail. I probably fucked that up again, who's the plus 155 underdog. And opening the prelims, we have a lightweight matchup between Claudio Pulias, who's a plus 170 favorite, or underdog, against Jordan Leviat, who is minus 210. And folks, if you hammered the over on the amount of names I was going to fuck up during the whole card, you got it. You hit the over.
Smashed that like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah. So now we've talked about the card. We're going to jump into some segments here. First up is Walsh's can't lose, won't lose parlay. Walsh, you had mixed results. Oh, he's got to get his positive vibes only hat.
I had no idea what was going on there. I had to take a shit, Walsh.
All right.
All right. So we have the Walsh's can't lose, won't lose parlay. Walsh, you've had mixed results the last couple of cards. Some will say, not me, but that's what some people are saying.
Okay.
Well, the $1 million question is, will the hashtag Fade Walsh crowd be silenced after this weekend?
Absolutely the fuck not. The Fade Walsh crowd has been all over me, all right? These guys stink. Mac's a part of them. Believe it or not, Mac's a part of the Fade Walsh crowd. He's like one of the leaders. I know he is.
Of course
That's why he
I am.
went against me.
Of course I am.
This weekend will be the weekend that the can't lose, won't lose parlay will indeed not lose. That's what's going to happen. So I'm going to give it to you right now. We are going to start with the main event. We are going to take Rosenstruck by KO, TKO, or DQ. You never know. That's plus 135. Then we're going to add in good old Walt Harris, the feel-good story of the year. First win after, tragic accident. Then we're going to hop in. We're going to do it. We got to give you one favorite here. We're going to go with Dusko Torovic, whatever Shavi said. He butchered the name, so I'm allowed to butcher the name. He's minus 150. And finally, the last one on the parlay, we are going to go with Ilir Latifi in that heavyweight fight at plus 160. I am feeling him this weekend. That gives you plus 23.49 on the odds. $5 bet wins you 117. Walsh's can't lose, won't lose parlay. Positive vibes only. That's how you get these dubs.
There you go. If you're in the Delco area and this parlay hits, Walsh is legally obligated by the Branded Sports lawyer to buy you a drink with his winnings. Yeah. So go ahead and take advantage of that. There's the Walsh's can't lose, won't lose parlay, brought to you by Gamblers Anonymous. If you live in the Salt Lake City area and have a gambling problem, call the GA hotline at 801-758-8890. Remember, gambling is cool. Pawning your refrigerator to bet on high school esports is not. Again, Gamblers Anonymous, Salt Lake area. Give them a holler if you've got issues with gambling. And with that, we're on to true or false, where you guessed it, we debate if something is true or false. First up, Diego Sanchez is back in the UFC now that he cut ties with Joshua Fabia. Mac, the floor is yours. True or false?
It's actually a very good one. I'll say false, unfortunately. I think I don't know. Dana's very cutthroat. You fuck up, you're gone. Diego has had obviously a very historic career. Actually, man, Diego might be coming back. But I'll say false right now. I just don't. It's hard to tell. I mean, he cut ties with the guy. I think he probably has to earn Dana's trust maybe a little. But Dana did say that all you have to do, he's a phone call away. They'll talk. I'm sure. Wouldn't be. Maybe we see him down in the next year or so. But I'll say false for now.
Okay, I get that. Walsh, on to you now. True or false?
Is there a time frame here, or is it just in general?
I think it's ever.
Then I'm going to say true. I think he comes back eventually. I think we're all kind of in agreement. He's going to probably go into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I mean, is it going to be soon? No, but he cut ties with the guy, and as long as he doesn't do anything else stupid or hire another idiot to work with him, then he should be good. I think Dana, once they talk, he'll be able to understand the situation. I'd say maybe by the end of 2022 is what I'm going to say.
Okay,
he'll be back by.
And hopefully, I'm in agreement. True, I think it will happen, but hopefully it's not a fight. Hopefully, it's like you said, it's just a Hall of Fame induction, maybe a mentor role, like we saw, or an ambassador role, like we saw with Chuck Liddell and Forrest Griffin, something along those lines. That dude should not be fighting, and I cannot for the life of me figure out why they matched him up with Donald Cowboy Cerrone. That was just feeding. That's the definition of feeding someone to the wolves. But yeah, I think, like Max said, that you have to see if this is just like a mini breakup, so to speak. And, they could rehash things out and be cool again. And then he's on the outs at the UFC all over again. So, but we talked about the Ultimate Fighter Season 1 winner, Diego Sanchez. We're going to talk about the Ultimate Fighter. The newest season is out right now. It is Team Volkanovski versus Team Ortega. It is behind a paywall this time on ESPN+. I believe it comes out every Wednesday night, if I'm not mistaken. And true or false, is the Ultimate Fighter an outdated concept? Walsh, you first.
No. I mean, no. I'm going to say false. I unfortunately haven't had the chance to watch the newest episode yet, so maybe my opinion will change after I watch the first episode, but I doubt it because, it's still a good opportunity. I like the idea of getting these fighters, into one area and just having to spend time with each other. It's reality TV, but, it is real. Like, these guys are fighting for their lives, essentially, to try and pay for the, shit, and I love it. So, my favorite season, though, before we get on, my favorite season was the live season.
That was a good season. I did like the whole, we edit it as the week goes on, and then Friday you're getting the episode along with the live fight. It did make the fights a little bit more entertaining, knowing that no one knew what was going to happen in those fights.
Yeah.
So I'm with you, Mac. True or false? The Ultimate Fighter is an outdated concept.
I'll say false. I mean, it's a very good question as well. It's I mean, people love reality TV. People love fighting. If you want to mix them, it's a perfect scenario. To maybe gain fans, to maybe even, there's fighters on there that are really trying to make it. And if you just to think about names that were on the Ultimate Fighter, like Nate Diaz was on the Ultimate Fighter. Like, are you kidding me? Like, imagine watching that, thinking where he would be now is insane.
Right.
I mean, Kelvin Gastelum. There's endless names. So you never know. There's probably someone in this group that is going to be a star. I mean, it's hard to I wouldn't bet on it, but it's probably there's going to be someone that comes out of this a very well known name, and it's a big opportunity. And if you like fighting and mixed with some reality stuff, of course, then this is for you. So I haven't watched every Ultimate Fighter. I wasn't a huge. I mean, I'm more just of like I'll watch the fights. But
right.
I will watch it. See how the coaches are. I mean, I love Volk and I love Ortega even more. So I think it's a great coaching matchup. I think Jorge Colby would have been a little more entertaining, but from what I've heard, that this season is going to be awesome. So
I'm glad you brought up those two because we will talk about them in a second because we have a huge debate we're going to get into.
Yes.
But I'm gonna go against the wave on this, and I'm going to say false or true. It is an outdated concept, and here's why. We have Dana White's Contender Series, and we had the Ultimate Fighter. I believe they coincided for at least a year, if I'm not mistaken, the Ultimate Fighter and Dana White's Contender Series. And looking where the fighters are from the last season of the last couple seasons of the Ultimate Fighter to where some of the guys from Dana White's Contender Series are now. Like we said, we have Augusto Sakai, who came out of the Contender Series. He's a top 10 heavyweight. He's in the main event this weekend, been in main events before. We have guys like Sugar Sean O'Malley. We have guys such as there's a couple other guys that came through that are slipping off the top of my head, but it just feels like that's the next wave of trying to find the next best mixed martial artist. I think that's the Contender Series is the way to go. I think Ultimate Fighter, it is entertaining. Don't get me wrong, but why would you fight four guys to get one contract when you can just make a name for yourself on the regional circuit? Dana finds you, plucks you out of there, puts you on one fight night, and you get the chance to earn a contract. It's kind of a no-brainer for me. Like if it came down to it and they said, hey, we want you to do the Ultimate Fighter or we want you to do Dana White's Contender Series, I pay the Contender Series. One fight and you're in the UFC.
Yeah. But at the same time, I don't like with the Contender Series though, what if you don't impress enough to get that contract? Then you're kind of shit out of luck. But you could impress over those span of 4 fights enough to get your contract.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, and I don't disagree with you guys saying it's groomed a lot of fighters into being stars. Like you said, Nate Diaz, former champions, and Rashad Evans, Forrest Griffin. I think in that time space it worked. I think from the mid 2000s to the mid 2010s, I think the Ultimate Fighter was a perfect concept to get fighters. But I just feel like as they're evolving it into this Contender Series, that's going to be the new way to get into the UFC. So that's where I'm coming from on that. And we'll see. I watched the newest season, watched the new fight. It wasn't a bad fight. I mean, we'll see if I stick around for the entire season. Like Max said, I'll watch the fights, but I'm probably not going to watch all the reality TV aspect of it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe our very own Branded Sports Avoiding Reality podcast. We'll talk about it.
Ooh, I smell a crossover episode. I smell a crossover.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not sure if they pay for that paywall though.
Yeah, well, we'll figure it out legally, of course. And now let's move on. Yeah, you know a guy. So let's move on to something that is something we're probably going to all disagree on. I think it's going to be a 2-on-1 here, and I am more than happy to do this. And I had the numbers to back it up. Max or Walsh is going to say this one out. Okay, I like it. Let the boys go at it here because this is something that's been brewing all day. Jorge Mossmadol versus Colby Covington. Colby came out and said that fight does nothing for me. I don't want it anymore, and neither does Jorge. So it's probably a fight that's never going to happen. But if it did, the question is, true or false, would it do over 500K pay-per-view buys? And I'm going to let my opponent in the blue corner, Mac, go first on this. Mac, does it do over 500K buys, true or false?
Yes, it does. And I think there's a big difference between this fight being for the title and not. If this is for the title, it's going to do, I think this does over $1 million. If it is not for the title, are they headlining the pay-per-view? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it would be a headlining pay-per-view. Not for a title, a 5-rounder non-title fight headlining a pay-per-view.
Okay. Well, I still think it would do 500K at the minimum. I think it could do anywhere from 500 to 750, probably. I mean, Jorge is a big star, a very big star. Colby's a big star too, not as big as Jorge, but they were best friends. They used to live together. They used to work out together all day, spar together. And I mean, they kind of grew into the sport together. So you have that story. You have the talent there. I mean, Jorge is probably a top 5, maybe 3 when it comes to stardom in the UFC. I'd say Colby's probably top 15 in terms of stardom in the UFC. So, man, it's a big fight. I think this fight will happen eventually. I don't know when. I think it would. I think it will happen. I think Colby would probably win. I think it would be a very close fight, though. I think Jorge's too good not to get beaten by Colby. So I think it would be competitive. It'd be competitive, a lot like that Kamaru fight between Colby.
But Jorge and Usman were not competitive at all. It was a 50-44. And then you guys clock clean. I know, but I'm saying it wouldn't be close like that fight because Colby gave Usman his toughest fight to date.
I think it would be. I think Colby would for sure win. I think he would probably win by unanimous decision, probably like 49-46 across the board. But I mean, Jorge could piece him up. I mean, Jorge is a good striker, and I mean, Colby's not Kamaru. Kamaru is way better than Colby. So it'd be a good one. I think they will fight. I don't know when. I think they will. I think that the contract is probably an issue. I think they both want a ton of money. So
yeah. Well, my opponent does put up a solid, valid argument there. But Mr. Moderator, I'd like to have the floor now. So Jorge Mossmadol's track record for UFC pay-per-views. Yeah, so we have UFC 261, which was obviously his. Or no, sorry, that was I fudged. I'm not off to a good start. What was that fight card?
His numbers are gone. They're gone out.
No, my numbers are still here. Damn, I'm not going to be able to figure this out for the life of me in a couple minutes.
Wow, the pressure was on, and Xavi's crumbling.
Sorry, UFC 251.
Mac is flexing on you.
Put the guns away. Put the guns away. UFC 251 had a $1.3 million or 1 million pay-per-view buy rate, which is good. No arguing that. It was the first fight from the Diaz fight to the Usman fight. We saw Jorge's star power was obviously there. UFC 261 rematch between Usman and Mossmadol. 700K right now for a card that's probably has about the same top to bottom talent wise or star power wise. So it's a similar card, and we saw almost the buy rate cut in half. So that's something to take into account. He is losing his star power the more he loses fights. And I think this is going to play a role into why they would not break 500K in a future matchup. And let's get into Colby's too, because it takes 2 to tango in a buy rate. We all know this, unless your name is Conor McGregor, of course. UFC 225, where Colby Covington was the co-main event against Rafael dos Anjos with a title on the line, mind you, an interim welterweight championship. They co-mained for the Whitaker-Romero middleweight fight. 250K on the pay-per-view buys. Not good, especially for a 2-title fight card. UFC on ESPN, where he fought Robbie Lawler, did 680K. That's not considered good if you're on ESPN. That's just not a good number. UFC 245, we don't know. They don't release the numbers. For some reason, UFC 244 and 245, we didn't get a buy rate. And I think 244 did well with Mossmadol. I will give him credit there. That was the BMF title fight against Nate Diaz. 245, I'm a little on the fence about. I imagine it probably did around 500K, if that. And UFC on ESPN Plus, we don't know. It's behind a paywall where he fought Tyron Woodley. I think there's just too many variables for me. I just don't think you cannot put someone in the main event that's going to keep losing fights and expect people to be like, I'm tuning in to watch this. Like they're going to dwindle down eventually. And I think UFC 261 is proof of that. It's a fight no one wanted to see. And they saw him get thoroughly outclassed again, got his clock cleaned. I think if you put them in a headline of a pay-per-view, you're not going to break 500K because obviously they're not going to put a title fight in the co-main below them. So I just think you cannot put together a good fight card to support them to get them over that 500K mark.
Yeah. And I mean, the one thing is like, I'm not too sure if, I mean, you can compare Jorge and Nate. Nate's a big star. I'd say Nate's a bigger star than Jorge, for sure. So when it comes to winning and losing, I don't think it really matters too much in terms of their stardom. They're always going to be big time. But man, I mean, you definitely make good points. It's more like, I mean, if Colby and Jorge fight, it's not going to be in the main event of a pay-per-view at this point. I mean, it could be, but they're not going to put a title below it unless it's like the flyweights or something, or like a women's, or like Amanda Nunes, maybe. I'm not even too sure if that would happen.
And that's where we agree. It's going to be a solid co-main fight that will help sell.
Yeah,
a fight above them.
But the thing is I don't know if either of those guys are willing to do that. Like, I think they want to be the main event, and rightfully so. I mean, Jorge is a big star and made a lot of money, so I don't know where even Jorge goes from here. I mean, he has a big fight between probably Nate or Leon next, but that's not headlining a pay-per-view. So there, I don't see Jorge headlining a pay-per-view in his next fight. I would be absolutely floored if that were the case. I mean, Nate's okay with the third spot in a pay-per-view next weekend. So why can't Jorge be? So I think that's probably the case going forward for Jorge. And Nate was the co-main before, but that got changed.
I was going to stay out of it, but after hearing both arguments and conforming my own opinion as well here, I'm leaning towards being on the side of that it would do over. I would say true. And here's the thing. It would depend on the amount of time that they had to build the fight. Because the trash talk between those two, they are going to have some clips that are going to get people interested. And if you can get that, if that trash talk alone is going to want people to, people are going to want to buy the fight because of that, because, these two guys absolutely hate each other. If they can get enough time to build that up, I think it would do numbers. Maybe not, extreme numbers, but it would definitely, I think, get over the 500K. If it was the main event.
I don't disagree. I just think I disagree, but I don't disagree with what you guys are saying. I think it's a valid argument you guys are putting out there. I just personally don't see it happening. But if we asked the fans right now, I'm sure the judges would be 10-8 one way, even though it's clearly not the case. So we'll just call it a draw. We'll set up the rematch for another topic down the road.
All right, I can agree with that.
That's that fair, Mr. Bruins?
It's I think it would do over 500 though. I really do. I really do.
See, he's already planning.
Mac would have nothing to do with the draw. Mac walked out of the octagon before his arm was raised for the draw.
Yeah,
there is no draw. There's no draw.
Mac has left the octagon, folks.
I didn't. I'm in it, and I won.
No, you didn't, but it's okay. Thanks for playing. You go to the Ultimate Fighter. I'm going to go on Dana White's Contender Series and win myself a contract with one fight. There we go. News roundup, folks. Dana White says soon when responding to a fan's question regarding long-term benefits for fighters. I saw that discount double check. Take it back.
No, I got the belt. I have it.
Oh, you actually have it. Okay.
No, I need a belt. I got to get one.
Okay. So noted for when the Bruins lose a Stanley Cup, someone get him a loser championship
We
belt.
should get one for the pickoff.
I have been looking. I want to say I am looking.
All right.
A little pricey. from one company that's on Shark Tank. I don't want to give any free ads out, but if they were to lower their costs, I think I would definitely look into that. But Dana White says soon when responding to a fan's question regarding long-term benefits for fighters. Quick fire thoughts on that. Do you see it happening anytime soon?
It's going to have to.
Yeah, it's going to have to. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Whether it's a pension, we don't know, but it's something that does have to happen.
It should be a pension. I mean, it's ridiculous they don't have it yet. I mean, it's 2021, man. Jesus Christ, get these fighters some benefits. My God.
Yeah, it's almost
fighting they're fighting in a cage for a living. Every few months, it's like twice or 2 or 3 times a year they do this. Like they train all day, every day to get to that point for 2 or 3 fights a year. It's insane.
Yeah, it's almost like the UFC and WWE are just skating by paying people peanuts while they rake in billions. It's like everyone else is like, we're unionizing, we're paying these people what they're worth in every other sport. But it seems like the UFC and WWE just kind of get by without doing that. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be on the board. And this is probably the only time we're going to talk about this subject that I'm bringing up here as a reference point. But if we give the fighters long-term benefits, we won't see them go to Showtime and take a fucking sham of a boxing fight.
Just saying, probably. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah, I care to give no airtime to that title, that fight, because it's a joke. All those fights are jokes.
What fight?
Next up, we're not talking about the fight. We're not talking about it.
I don't know. No. What fight? I don't think there's anything going on.
No,
UFC fight night.
Big Paul Tyron Woodley.
I did. Mac muted, locked and reported. Next up, Yuri Prochaska is in talks to be an alternate for the UFC 266 light heavyweight title fight between Glover Teixeira and Jan Blachowicz.
Yep.
Mac, how do you feel if you're Jan here? You are training for a wrestler, and on the flip of a hat, flip of a fedora, so to speak, you could be facing a striker all of a sudden. I mean, how do you feel about that?
I mean, that's really if someone goes down, right? Or
right.
I don't believe either of those guys will miss weight. I mean, they've been in the game too long to do that at 205. So if someone goes down with an injury or something, then man, it's a tough one for Jan. I really love Yuri. I think he's based off his last fight. I think he's a future world champion. I'm taking him I'm taking him over both those guys if he gets substituted in. He was so fucking fun to watch. Oh my God. I mean, legitimately, absolutely skyrocketed on my list of people you need to watch fight. I mean, he was such a joy to see in that octagon, and future world champion in my opinion.
There you go. Walsh, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think we kind of touched on this the last time we talked about him in one of our episodes, that this was a possibility he could be what was next for him. So do I think anything happens to where he has to step in? No, but it's good to see that he's getting the spotlight in a way to where it's like, hey, we noticed you. We need you to step in. We need you.
And I gotta say, along with the Michael Chandler being the alternate for Khabib and Gaethje, I do like this where they're implementing an alternate just so we don't see a fight card really crumble the day of the fight or the day before. We do have plans in place to prepare so our fans aren't getting shafted if they were flying out to that pay-per-view venue and, all of a sudden the biggest fight on the card's gone. I do like the UFC as being proactive with this. It is something, injuries are going to be happening in the fight game for as long as the fight game's around. It's unfortunately, it's a part of the sport. So it's good at least they're being proactive about it. I'm glad they weren't proactive about it back when Kimbo Slice got knocked out, though, because that created one of the funniest moments of all time. So it was good in the past, not so much now. We're taking proactive measures to make sure it doesn't happen again. And this is a fight here we're going to end on tonight. Yair Rodriguez versus Max Holloway, booked to headline UFC Fight Night 149, July 17th on ESPN+. Now, I did get in a little back and forth on Twitter today. I don't like this fight being behind a paywall, especially after you have Max Holloway just destroy Calvin Kattar on ABC. This feels like it should have been an ABC or an ESPN fight.
Yeah. I mean, this is the perfect opportunity for Max Holloway to go out, beat the brakes off of Yair Rodriguez, and after he knocks his ass out, come out and say, put some fucking respect on my name.
And put him on a pay-per-view.
Yeah. It's a great opportunity for Max, and I expect him to take full advantage of it and put on another outstanding show.
I will be happy if that happens. Mac, are you in the same boat?
No, I actually don't. You don't need. He doesn't need to be. I do think Max wins that fight. Yes, I agree with Walsh, but I don't think it needs to be on ESPN. I mean, or ABC. They already did. They already showcased Max on that. So I think other fighters kind of need that main event slot on ESPN or ABC. Max is obviously an all-time great. I mean, an all-time great. So. It was smart to highlight that fight in January when they did it. But with Yair and with Max, I think I don't have a problem with it being behind the paywall. I mean, of course, we all pay for it, so it's okay to us. But you know, if you want to watch Max fight, then pay for it because Max is an all-time great, and you know, it's a pleasure to watch him fight, and it's you know, it's something that. You know, he's so fucking good. He's so good. And if he's anything like he was against Calvin Kattar, he's winning this fight. I think we all agree with that. And I hope he is. I mean, it's like he reached a new level. So I'm very excited to see that. But
I don't see the
fight paywall.
I see. My thing is the person I was talking to about it. They said they live in Germany and they get all the UFC fights on one channel essentially. So it's like we're pretty much like this. The North American area is getting screwed over by this. Everyone else they tune in. There's UFC on. I get where you're coming from, where other people deserve the slot, but it's like you gave them the slot on ABC, and the next step should have been pay-per-view to capitalize on that right away. It just kind of feels weird. It's almost like a step backwards to go from ABC back to ESPN Plus. And I don't think there's anything wrong with being on ESPN Plus, but it's like I said, I thought the next logical step from ABC was to pay-per-view. Kind of like when you see guys from Fox, like Demetrius Johnson, go up to the pay-per-view after headlining a couple Fox cards. I just think that's the logical next move. But like you said, the fight's going to be awesome. Max is probably going to win, and then he can just lay claim to putting some respect on his name and getting hopefully a rematch with Volkanovski or a rematch with Ortega for the featherweight championship.
Yeah, so if he won, he's definitely getting a title shot out of this question, for sure. And yeah, I mean, I think Max is he's very humble, and he's not going to speak. He's not one to be like a Jorge or like someone be like, yo, you need to pay me. I'm main eventing this pay-per-view. Max just wants to fucking fight. He just wants to fucking fight. So he doesn't care. He knows he's an all-time great, and I think that's enough for him.
Yeah, there we go. Guys, anything else you want to say before I wrap up the show here?
I hope the Bruins lose.
No, we're not losing. It's time.
Timestamp that. We're going to figure out if the Bruins actually lose. You're listening to us on a Friday, so of course you already know the result. So now you're laughing at either Mac or Walsh. I guess we'll figure out who you're laughing at eventually. But that's going to do it for this edition of the Branded MMA Show. If you're listening to us on iTunes, rate, review, subscribe, repeat. If you're listening on Spotify, please throw us a follow. Every follow matters. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Branded MMA. For Mac and Walsh, I'm Sashavi. I almost forgot my name.
Yeah, buddy.
Saying good night and good fight.
Good night. Goodbye, Chavi.
Yeah, right. Wait, what happened?
All right.
Because we're still